Hello, this is Dr. Grande. Today I will offer an update on the controversy surrounding Jimmy Kimmel. First, I'll look at the background of this case, move to a summary of Jimmy's monologue when he returned to the air, then offer my analysis. On September 15, 2025, Jimmy Kimmel made a statement during his opening monologue on his late-night talk show Jimmy Kimmel Live, which aggravated some viewers. When talking about the assassination of the conservative political activist Charlie Kirk, which had occurred 5 days earlier on September 10, Jimmy said, quote, "We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them, and doing everything they can to score political points from it," unquote. On the next day, September 16, the chairman of the FCC, Brendan Carr, suggested that Jimmy's behavior was part of a concerted effort to lie to the American people. He implied that there may be regulatory action taken against companies like ABC and Disney. A few hours later, the largest television station owner in the United States, Nexstar Media Group, announced that Jimmy Kimmel Live would be pulled from all its ABC-affiliated stations. The company believed that Jimmy's comments were offensive and insensitive and did not reflect the spectrum of values of the local communities where they operated. A few minutes later, ABC, which is owned by Disney, announced that Jimmy Kimmel Live would be indefinitely suspended nationwide. On September 17, 2025, Donald Trump indicated that Jimmy's suspension was great news for America and congratulated ABC for having the courage to do what had to be done. He also called for the cancellation of 2 shows on NBC, The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon and Late Night with Seth Meyers. On Monday, September 22, 2025, Disney indicated that they had thoughtful conversations with Jimmy and the show would return the following day. The Nexstar Media Group and the Sinclair Broadcast Group said they would not put Jimmy's show back on the air. These 2 companies own 63 of the 205 ABC affiliate stations, so Jimmy would not be returning to about 30% of the stations. Right before Jimmy returned on Tuesday, September 23, Donald Trump posted a message on Truth Social, which read, quote, "I can't believe ABC fake news gave Jimmy Kimmel his job back. The White House was told by ABC that his show was canceled. Something happened between then and now because his audience is gone and his talent was never there. He is yet another arm of the DNC and, to the best of my knowledge, that would be a major illegal campaign contribution. I think we're going to test ABC out on this. Let's see how we do. Last time I went after them, they gave me $16 million. This one sounds even more lucrative," unquote. This brings me to a summary of Jimmy Kimmel's monologue upon his return. On September 23, 2025, Jimmy Kimmel made his triumphant return to his show, Jimmy Kimmel Live. He thanked viewers and friends who supported him, like other late-night talk show hosts. Jimmy also thanked the people who disagree with him on political issues who supported him. Many people on the right defended Jimmy's right to free speech. Referring to the assassination of Charlie Kirk, Jimmy said it was never his intention to make light of the murder of a young man. He was not trying to joke about the crime and did not blame any group. Jimmy said the killer was a disturbed individual. For those who think he did point a finger, Jimmy understood why they were upset. If the situation had been reversed, he might feel the same way. Jimmy talked about how his show is not important. Rather, the important element is getting to live in a country that allows people to have a show like his. The freedom of speech must be protected. Jimmy joked about how Trump's plan backfired because now millions of people are watching his show. He said that Trump could not take a joke. A government that threatens to silence comedians is anti-American. There is solidarity on this issue. Many people agree with Jimmy. As far as his relationship with Disney, Jimmy said he was not happy when they pulled him off the air, but acknowledged that they did not have to bring him back. He was grateful that they restored his show. Now moving to my analysis. Not surprisingly, there are many different opinions about how effective Jimmy's monologue was. Those who rated his performance positively pointed out several reasons to support their conclusion. For example, even though Jimmy did not explicitly say, "I'm sorry," he did apologize in a roundabout way. He even admitted that he might have been offended by his statement if the roles had been reversed. Jimmy expressed gratitude toward Disney for allowing his show to return, indicating how he understands the difference between a private company employing him and the First Amendment protection against the government suppressing his free speech. Jimmy criticized both Donald Trump and Brendan Carr and pointed out how their position against him is illogical. Other people, of course, view the monologue differently. They do not believe Jimmy delivered an acceptable performance. They argue that Jimmy Kimmel was self-serving, never truly apologized, and played the victim. There's an issue with his premise that the controversy was about humor, because his offensive remark was not actually a joke, it was a political statement. He was blatantly supporting a political ideology by suggesting something that wasn't true. Jimmy never bothered to frame it as satire. There was no humor component at all. Jimmy argued that there should be protection for comedians, but he was missing the comedy. Those who view Jimmy's monologue as unfavorable argue that Jimmy is simply a political activist, not a comedian. This brings me to the question, do I believe that Jimmy was victorious in this controversy, or did Trump win by pressuring the FCC to in turn pressure Disney to take Jimmy off the air in the first place? As with any controversy based on politics, whether Jimmy won or not is somewhat dependent on the belief system of the person making the judgment. For the most part, people on the left will probably see him as victorious, and people on the right will see him as defeated. This case, however, might be a little different in that several people on the right have sided with Jimmy. They might not like his opinions or his behavior, but they defend his right to free speech. Jimmy was able to highlight how this incident is more about the First Amendment than about his behavior as a late-night talk show host. In my opinion, Jimmy's monologue may not have been perfect, but I think he did emerge victorious. Part of his win is really based on what people expected from a comedian versus what they expect from the President of the United States. The liberal bias among late-night talk show hosts was well known before Jimmy Kimmel made his remarks about the Charlie Kirk assassination. However, the idea that Trump would try to infringe on the First Amendment was, arguably, something relatively new. It stood out in this controversy more than anything else, certainly more than Jimmy's bad behavior. Jimmy's monologue successfully exposed the changing position of Donald Trump as it relates to free speech. He played a clip where Trump vigorously supported the freedom of speech. He also read a statement that had been made in 2022 by Brendan Carr, where Brendan said that political satire was one of the oldest and most important forms of free speech. People said that Jimmy was playing the victim, but I think he did a pretty good job of establishing he was actually the victim. Yes, his statement about the Charlie Kirk assassination was ill-advised and offensive, but the reaction by the Trump administration overshadowed any wrongdoing on Jimmy's part. The response was disproportionate to the perceived injustice. To use a boxing analogy, I think Jimmy effectively counterpunched. He made Donald Trump appear impulsive and immature. Trump conducted a sloppy and ham-fisted effort to silence Jimmy through the FCC. There's a sense that Trump is willing to do anything to win, even when it runs counter to the Constitution. Trump tried to get rid of Jimmy, but Jimmy returned to the air. That really does make it seem like Jimmy was victorious. I believe that Jimmy would have achieved a more complete victory if he had directly apologized for his offensive remark. It's a little confusing that he didn't. It seems like an unforced error. He would have lost nothing by taking responsibility. Perhaps arrogance is a trait that Jimmy Kimmel and Donald Trump share. If those two are interested in finding common ground, there it is. Now moving to my final thoughts. Some people are concerned about the liberal bias in the media. How can it be addressed? What Trump did was clearly not the solution. I'm not sure there is a solution other than to simply be aware of the bias. Jimmy Kimmel and other late-night talk show hosts are not balanced and objective. They have a pronounced bias toward left-wing ideology. In the first video I made about this topic, I defended Jimmy's right to free speech. My opinion has not changed. I don't think he should have made an insensitive remark about the assassination of Charlie Kirk, but Trump's behavior was worse than Jimmy's. In that original video, I also talked about how Jimmy's suspension might save his career. People have pointed out that Jimmy was not doing too well in the ratings. However, now his show has been given a new purpose. Its continued presence is now a symbol of the fight for free speech. Donald Trump tried to take away Jimmy Kimmel's voice, only to amplify Jimmy's platform to a wider audience. Those are my thoughts on the controversy surrounding Jimmy Kimmel. Thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you soon.